Hello friends, I'm Rosa, welcome to the channel. So, we're entering winter times, at least in my country. And so of course I wanted to talk about books that I have found in my collection that I think will be perfect reads for winter. However, I have not read them yet, but I really want to. So I got 10 books. It was actually surprisingly difficult. Some of them are a little bit on the nose, while others I might have to explain why I feel like they're winter books. None of them are about Christmas. Those I have left out because I feel like they are way too obvious. So we're just gonna be talking about books that I feel are cozy or that somehow remind me of winter. You can find links to all of the books in the description box to both Book Depository but also Amazon if you want to check them out. I'm gonna do my very best to summarize them or at least talk a little bit about them, but like mentioned, I have not read the books yet, so if I make any mistakes regarding the synopses, that will be why, because I don't know any better. But enough talk. We're still gonna talk. I hope you got yourself a cup of tea. I do. Mine is way too warm, so I'm gonna put it away for now. And let's get started talking about the first book, which is a YA by Rebecca Ross. It's fantasy and it's called Dreams Lie Beneath. In this book, we follow a young girl who is going to take over the title of warden from her father. So in this town that she lives in, wardens are basically supposed to be protectors of the town, because each full moon or each new moon, some kind of moon, the town is attacked by nightmares that spawn, if you will. But as the title is supposed to pass on to her, two magicians actually start to challenge her because they also want the title of warden. And as it turns out, there's like a centuries-long feud going on. So this is about dueling magicians. For some reason, this just gives me winter vibes. I think I got this last November as well. So it has that like late fall, winter release as well. So I think that might be part of the reason why I'm getting those vibes, but also the cover here. And I'm just sensing, I don't know what it is, but there's something that's telling me that this would be like a winter read. I could be completely off about it. I feel like for my collection though, this is definitely one of those books that has me thinking of winter, that I want to read during the winter times. So first one, Dreams Lie Beneath. Then we got one that I solely chose because of the title. It's Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell, and Winter's Orbit I think is actually something to do with the galaxy. However, and I will also talk about this in a little bit regarding the next book, but there's something about stars that, like, you can also see it on the cover here. There's something about stars that to me really reminds me of winter. I think it's because during summertime in my country, the sun doesn't really fully go down at the peak of summer, so it never gets dark enough for us to actually see the stars. Whereas during winter, it's dark from like 3:30 p.m. or 4 p.m. until like 8:30 or 8:45, so our nights are very long during the winter. And so we finally get to see the stars. So I think that has something to do with it. And when I look at this cover, I just think winter, like regardless of the title, I just think winter. Despite it being a sci-fi and we probably don't have seasons in this. But this is an adult sci-fi, as mentioned, with romance as well. What this book is about though is a prince, I think it is, who's not really favored by his father, but he finds himself in a situation where he's finally useful to him as basically a pawn, because he's supposed to be married off to this other planet that is very rebellious. They have a prince, but he's like, people are suspecting him to be a murderer. I think, from what I can read in the synopsis, they theorize that he's killed his wife, or his husband. I suppose it could be husband too. One of them. He's killed his spouse, is what they think, the people. And so that's a bit of a situation to be in for our unfavored prince. Neither of them want to get married, but they gotta do this thing, and they sort of find themselves in the middle of a looming war and several other things that's going on in this galaxy. I almost said on this planet. In this country, but it's more like galaxy, so court intrigue. I'm super excited. Also, I think the cover is just stunning. I love this cover, and I also love the cover for Ocean's Echo. I need to read this because I have Ocean's Echo as an ARC, and even though they're not companion novels, they just take place in the same universe. So you don't have to read one to get to the other one. I just would feel better going through this one before I get to Ocean's Echo. So It's gonna happen eventually, I just need the time. But Winter's Orbit. And the other one I wanted to talk about regarding the whole star thing is, but also because this is a vibes book as far as I have understood, which gives me cozy vibes, and that is The Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I'm so proud that I remembered the title. I did right? The Long Way to... Yes, I did. Awesome. Great. This is also adult sci-fi, and it's the first one in the Wayfarer series. It's about a girl who wants to get away from her troubled past, so she's offered a spot on the Wayfarer. They're gonna travel to some galaxy, or not some galaxy, some planet in the corner of the galaxy. There's no corners in the galaxy, but we're gonna go with that anyway. And while she's on this ship, there's a lot of chaos, because her shipmates might not be getting along super well, all of them and stuff, so that's essentially what this is about. Our girl, though, despite all the issues that's going on with the crew, there's a couple of bad eggs, there's also a couple of good ones, she just loves being there. So she's feeling the moment. I have high hopes for this. I do like vibes books. We're gonna talk about another vibes book in just a second, but something about this is just giving me winter vibes, and I could be completely wrong about that. Again, I don't think seasons actually exist like that in sci-fi books, but it's the stars and it's a vibes book as well. So I think this would be a good winter read for that reason, even if it's not snowy in it, you know? So another vibes book that I think would be a perfect winter read is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is adult fantasy, but it's like cozy. It's about an orc who used to do a lot of killing. I actually read the first page and I can fully confirm that it is a little bit gory. This orc indeed does some killing, okay? But what's her name? Vivi. No, Viv. Viv is tired of being a killer. She's tired of being a barbarian. She wants to put down her axe, not sword. Maybe, might be a sword. Her weapon, let's just say weapon. And so she decides to open a coffee shop in the middle of this city that's not necessarily, like, it's not filled with good people. There's also new and old rivals that kind of want to get in the way of Viv's new business. There might also be some good points to starting a business because Viv does know that she can't do this herself, so she hires some help as well. But it's about a coffee shop and the orc running it, and there's a bit of a love story as far as I've gathered as well, so definitely a vibes book. I am super excited to read this because I've heard so many good things about it, and I think it would be a cozy winter read as well, so we'll see when I pick this one up, but I'm very excited to read it. I just got this yesterday as well, and I am in love with the edges. They are so cute. Now that we're looking at special editions today, but by the way, if you want to see a special editions video, let me know, but I have like 90 or something, so I don't know if I could do the video, but let me know anyway. So Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. And then the last book that I own is a physical copy I also talked about last year. And I don't really know much about this book, but I know that it's said to be like a very good winter read, and I see why. I have a feeling that they're right about it. It's The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. I, for some reason, wanted to swap his names around. Apologies. All I know about this is that it takes place during the Second World War, as far as I can remember, and that it's narrated by Death. I think it's YA friendly. I don't think it's necessarily full-on YA. And I also think that it's sad at times as well. There's a sadness point to it, I think. But that's all I know. I have been told by a close friend of mine as well that it's the perfect winter read. She really wants me to read it. Just haven't gotten to it yet, but maybe it'll happen this winter. So we will see about that. Okay, yeah, reading the back of the book, definitely sad vibes. But that is 1939 in Germany. Like, not good times. I wouldn't know, I didn't live back then and I don't live in Germany, but from what I've learned in history, not good times. Anywhere, to be honest. But anyway, The Book Thief. And then we have 5 books that I own on Kindle, however don't have as physical copies. The first one is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. So this one is a little bit difficult to summarize. It's the first one in the Winter Night trilogy. We do follow a girl who... I'm gonna preface this by saying that this is inspired, like a lot of the stuff in the book is inspired by Russian folklore, which is very interesting. Don't really see a lot of that, but we follow a girl who throughout her childhood has been told a lot of, I want to call them ghost stories, or at least just like rhymes from her nurse. But then her mother dies and her father takes off to find a new wife, brings one home, and our lead girl, and her stepmother don't get along at all. Her stepmother wants to change her, and it seems like those stories that she's heard from her nurse that have now been banished in the house as well. Like, her stepmother does not want those stories to be told anymore, but it seems like the stories are kind of coming to life. So our lead girl finds herself in a bit of a situation with her stepmother, and as it turns out, she might also have some powers that she is kind of forced to use despite having hidden them for a long while because she has to defend her family. And that's all I think I know about it. I am mostly very intrigued by the fact that it's winter, so I think that's why it's perfect for winter. There's a lot of snow, and I think the whole, like, them sitting around the fire, cozy vibes, talking about these different stories, that gives me winter vibes as well. But the Russian folklore aspect to it is very intriguing to me, because I don't really, like, I don't have any other books that are inspired by Russian folklore. I'm pretty sure that I don't, so very excited to read that. Have it on my Kindle. Hope I can get special editions of it at some point if I like it, because they're really hard to come by if you don't want the paperbacks at least, so... But that is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I really don't know how to summarize the next one, but I've chosen it for my winter books that I want to read, or like books that I think are good, because they're not necessarily winter books, but books that I think would be fitting to read during winter, because it's fairy tale inspired. It's Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, but the whole synopsis of it is so confusing to me. There's something about a tsar, and also her and her family are moneylenders, but they have landed in money trouble because they can't actually get debt repaid. So our lead girl has to sort of figure out a way to deal with those issues herself because her parents apparently are not doing it, and somehow ends up with the reputation that she's able to spin silver into gold. And so that's why she ends up getting attention from places she doesn't want attention from, and there's a whole thing. Fairy tale inspired. There was something about the cover as well that made me really think of winter. I think it's because it looks so cold, but also the fairy tale mixed with that. I don't know. I think this would be a good winter read. I hope to read it and be proven right, but like, you never know. So Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Yes, I'm also interested in the other one that I forgot the name of right now, but the one with the golden cover. I just don't get winter vibes from it, so we'll have to talk about that one another time. Next up is an adult fantasy with some historical fiction sprinkled in there and possibly also some romance. It's Winter's Fury by A.E. Rain, and it's also Norse inspired, as far as I've gathered, which of course, with it being called Winter's Fury, I'm like, this is proper winter material. Like, if anything is winter material in this video, this would have to be it. But this book is about two people, a man and a woman. The woman is like a warrior, but unfortunately for her, people aren't really letting her do what she's good at. She's basically just supposed to work like a pawn and be married off to someone. Or a man has lost his wife. He has a daughter who one day has a dream about our lead woman, and so he decides to basically make an alliance with the people that she belongs to, despite their people actually being enemies. And so the two of them have to work together despite for some reason not really being super into the marriage. They have to work together. People in general aren't super into the marriage and the whole alliance thing. But if they don't, the whole kingdom and surrounding kingdoms might be in danger of a looming war. As far as I've understood, but I've also read that the story is a little bit complicated, so might be wrong about a couple of things in there, but hoping that I at least got 80% of it right. This isn't a very well-known book, but I was kind of drawn to it when I found it just randomly browsing Goodreads. And then I found out that it was on sale on Amazon. So I was like, yes, I'm jumping on it. I need this in my Kindle library. So it's gotten a lot of good reviews though. I'm very excited to read it at some point. But it sounds like it might be like leaning on something that's a little bit high fantasy like. We will see though. Next up, we have one that I think I've had saved for a while. And there's something in the synopsis that actually kind of confirms that this takes place during at least late fall, early winter. The book is The Witch Collector, and in this book we follow a mute witch who lives in a small village. We also follow a guy who comes to collect witches from this village every year on the harvest moon, I think. It's called the collecting day, but it falls on a specific moon that is like late fall, early winter. Our lead woman has managed to avoid being collected by the witch collector for 24 years though. However, on this collecting day, as he's riding into the village to pick out another witch to bring with him to the king, the village ends up being attacked. And so our lead woman, our witch, and the witch collector have to work together to somehow save the king in all of this mess. And things are not really going to plan because they don't know how to work together, so... Oh, an important note is that our lead witch, our lead woman, actually also is planning to kill the king and also the witch collector because her sister was once taken and she was taken to the king. So with good reason, she doesn't really want to work with the witch collector, but somehow has to. So that is The Witch Collector. I think I forgot to say the author's name, but it's Charissa Weeks. I think it's considered new adult, whether that's young adult or adult, I'm not really sure, but like somewhere in between. And it's also fantasy romance. I remember while making this list, it just popped up in my head, like for some reason I felt like this one, there was something about there was a certain point, like I mentioned about a moon in the synopsis. I can't find the name of this moon now, but I was like, oh, this is now. Perfect. I'm gonna include it. So it was either like late November or early December or maybe even mid-November or something, but like what I would consider winter time here at least. So to me, this is a winter-like book, but yeah. And then lastly, I have one more book for you, and that is Where the Forest Meets the Stars by Glendy Vandera, or Fandera. I'm unsure of how to pronounce the last name, but this is an adult contemporary romance with some fantasy sprinkled in there, along with also some mystery. So in this book, we follow our lead girl who, after both dealing with cancer and also the loss of a parent, she decides to basically like delve into her schoolwork. So she's constantly doing research, constantly working on that, until one day, a mysterious little girl who says that she's there to witness 5 miracles shows up at her doorstep. So our lead woman is a bit like, this is weird, understandably. I'm gonna let her stay at my house until I figure out what her past is, what her deal is, where she gotta go, who her parents are. And to get help with all of this, she also teams up with her kind of reclusive neighbor as well. But as this girl is staying at her house, there's a lot of weird things happening, and she is forming more and more questions about this girl. Like, why does she know about these things? Where does she come from? What is up with her? So while the three of them are spending a lot of time together, they are bonding and becoming friends, becoming more than friends maybe, who knows? I mean, not the little girl, but the two. Just want to clarify. Not the little girl. I mean, she's a friend, but like okay, you get my point. A lot of secrets start to surface and ... That's all I'm gonna say. So this does take place during the summer, but there was something about the synopsis when I read it that just kind of gave me like cozy mystery vibes in some way. Like, I don't know, it's like a feeling with this one. It's not so much season content in the book, it's just like a feeling thing. So Where the Forest Meets the Stars is the last book that I'm going to talk about today. Surprisingly difficult to find books that actually take place during winter. Just want to say, unless they're Christmas books, those are really easy to find. But books that just take place during winter, not so easy. If you have any, let me know. I would love to know more books that could give me winter vibes. Also, if they don't take place during winter necessarily, but just give you the vibe, let me know, like cozy vibes. Definitely help a girl out by leaving some recommendations in the comments. If you've read any of the books that I talked about today, leave your opinions on them as well down below. But that's all I got for you guys. So like I mentioned, you can find links to all of the books if you want to know a little bit more about the synopses in the description box down below, and they're linked on both Book Depository and Amazon. But that's all I got for you guys today, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to hit the thumbs up. And if you're new here and you want to stick around for more videos like this, but also videos like readathons and TBR videos, wrap-ups, bookish unboxings, and all the other booktube stuff, definitely consider hitting the subscribe button. But that's all I got for you guys today, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye! Oh, you know you're beautiful.